There is a wealthy man named Boaz. He owns rice farms and a rice mill. You should go and ask him for work."
Who is that young woman? She is Ruth, sir, the woman who came back with Naomi.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my dear. I've heard about you and your kindness. You will work in this farm permanently, and you will receive your wages every day.
Just a few months earlier, Ruth had a husband, a home, and a future she thought was certain. Then everything changed. One terrible night, a ghastly motor accident took the lives of two brothers. Ruth's husband was one of them. The loss shattered the family. The house that was once filled with laughter became quiet. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The pain never fully left. And when Naomi, their mother, could no longer bear staying in the city, she made a difficult decision. She would return to her hometown. She would start over. But first, she needed to speak with her daughters-in-law. Naomi sat with the two young women one evening, looked at them with tired eyes. "My daughters, you have been good to me. You are both still young. You still have your lives ahead of you. When I leave for my hometown, I want you both to return to your families. If you choose to marry again, marry again. Build your lives. Do not suffer because of me." Tears filled their eyes. Neither of them wanted to leave her, but Naomi continued encouraging them. For days, she spoke about it, and eventually, they agreed to travel with her. The journey was long. They traveled for hours. They stopped at different motor parks, changed vehicles, carried bags, walked through dusty roads. Finally, they reached a major junction. It was a point where their paths were separate. One road led towards Naomi's village. The other led towards the villages where the young women grew up. Naomi stopped walking and turned to them. "This is where we part ways." Both women shook their heads. "We cannot leave you." Naomi smiled sadly. "You must," she said. The first daughter-in-law wiped her tears. She looked at Naomi. She looked at Ruth. Finally, she nodded. She hugged Naomi tightly. Then she hugged Ruth. She cried as she walked away. And then Naomi turned to Ruth. "Now you should go too." Ruth shook her head immediately. "No, wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you stay, I will stay. You are my family." For a moment, Naomi couldn't speak. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Then she held Ruth's hand. Together, they continued the journey. When they finally arrived at Naomi's hometown, people immediately recognized her. Neighbors gathered outside. "Is that Naomi?" People approached her. "Naomi, you are back." Naomi forced a smile. "Yes, life has been hard, but I am back." Naomi and Ruth eventually arrived at Naomi's old family house. Dust covered everything. The two women spent the entire day cleaning. By evening, the old house finally looked alive again. Ruth cooked one of her delicious meals. They sat together eating dinner. Naomi looked across the table at Ruth. "You don't need to suffer with me. You can still go home. We don't have much." Ruth sighed. "Not this again, mother. No, we will be okay. I will find work." Naomi thought for a second, then she remembered someone. There is a man, a wealthy man. His name is Bolanle Adedotun Zakari, but everyone calls him Boaz. Boaz owned thousands of acres of rice farmland. He operated one of the biggest rice mills in the region. His rice brand was sold all over Nigeria, but what people respected most was his character. He treated workers fairly, he helped local farmers, he paid people on time, and whenever someone was in need, he quietly helped. The next morning, Ruth woke up before sunrise. She dressed neatly, said a short prayer, and headed to one of Boaz's largest farms. The farm was massive. Workers were already busy. Machines moved. People carried bags. Everyone seemed occupied. Ruth found the supervisor. and greeted him. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning," he responded. "My name is Ruth. I came looking for work." The man introduced himself. "I'm Kayode." Then he added, "We are full." On hearing this, Ruth's face fell, but Kayode noticed her disappointment. "You know what? Since you've come all this way, work here today. Tomorrow we'll move you to another farm." Ruth thanked him and started working. She worked harder than anyone expected. She barely rested. She focused on every task from morning till evening. Workers whispered about her dedication. Even Kayode was impressed. As the sun began to set, a convoy drove into the farm. Boaz had arrived. The workers all greeted. "Good evening, sir." "Good evening, everyone, and well done," he responded with a smile. Then his eyes landed on Ruth. She was still working. He turned to Kayode. "Who is that young woman?" Kayode explained everything. He told him about Ruth, about Naomi, the journey, and about how hard she had been working all day. Boaz listened carefully. Then he walked towards her. Ruth looked up and greeted again. "Good evening, sir." "Good evening, my dear." He smiled warmly. "You continue to work here. You don't need to move to another farm." Ruth looked surprised. Her face brightened. He continued, "When you need rest, rest. When you need water, take water. And you receive your wages every day." Ruth bowed down respectfully. "Thank you, sir." Then she asked him, "But why are you being so kind to me?" Boaz smiled. "I've heard about you. I heard how you stayed with Naomi. I heard about how you left everything behind to take care of her. Not everyone will do that. God bless you." Ruth lowered her eyes and responded, "Amen." At lunch, Boaz sat with the workers. When Ruth entered the cafeteria, he called her over. "Come and join us." She sat down. Boaz personally served her food. Then Boaz addressed everyone. "Be kind to her. Let her do her work in peace." Everyone nodded. That evening, Ruth returned home carrying food and rice. Naomi's eyes widened. "Where did all this come from?" Ruth smiled. Then she told her everything. When Naomi heard Boaz's name, she smiled. Then she quietly thanked God. Weeks passed. Ruth continued working. Boaz continued showing kindness. Whenever Boaz was mentioned, Ruth smiled. Whenever Ruth arrived work, Boaz seemed happier. One afternoon, Naomi sat watching Ruth cook in the kitchen. Then an idea came to her. She called her over. "Tomorrow, Boaz will be at the mill. Wear something nice and take food to him." Ruth smiled and said, "Okay." She understood immediately what Naomi was doing. The next evening, she arrived at the mill carrying food. Boaz looked exhausted, but when he saw her, he smiled. "Good evening, my dear." "Good evening, sir," Ruth responded. She handed him the food. He looked genuinely touched. Later, they sat together near the fields, talking, laughing, sharing stories. The hours passed quickly. Finally, Boaz looked at her. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes, sir," Ruth replied. Then Boaz asked if there's anything she always wanted. She thought for a moment, then she smiled and responded, "I've always loved cooking, so I've always wanted to own a restaurant, but that's impossible." Boaz simply nodded. He said nothing else. He took her home that evening. Before leaving, he gave her a warm, respectful hug, and from the window, Naomi watched them quietly and smiled, grateful that hope had finally found its way back into their lives. The next day, something unexpected happened. Boaz took both women to see a house, a beautiful house. When they arrived, he handed Naomi the keys. "This belongs to you. You've suffered enough." Tears filled her eyes. Neither she nor Ruth could believe it. A few days later, Boaz invited Ruth to see property. Construction was ongoing. The building looks impressive. What do you think? He asked her. It's beautiful, sir, Ruth answered politely. Then they left. A month passed. One afternoon, Boaz took Ruth back to the property. This time, the building was complete. He took her inside. Ruth's eyes widened. This looks like a luxury restaurant. Boaz smiled. Then he said the word she never expected. It is yours. For a moment, Ruth could not speak. Then the reality hit her. She laughed, she cried, she covered her face. She hugged him tightly. Thank you so much, sir. You have done too much. Boaz smiled and said, you deserve happiness. That evening, Ruth rushed home. She told Naomi everything. Naomi rejoiced. She thanked God repeatedly. A few days later, Boaz hosted friends and family to celebrate the launch of Ruth's restaurant. Everyone was happy and laughing. Then suddenly Boaz reached into his pocket, brought out a beautiful, expensive diamond ring. He looked directly into her eyes. You've brought joy into my life. He got down on one knee. Will you marry me? Tears immediately filled her eyes. She nodded. Yes, I will. The restaurant erupted into applause. Then he took her hand and led her outside. As soon as she stepped out, she saw a brand new car parked in front of the restaurant. She was overwhelmed with happiness and thanked him sincerely. Soon after, wedding preparations began immediately. Friends gathered, family celebrated, the town talked about nothing else, and before long, Ruth and Boaz became husband and wife. Months later, another blessing arrived, a baby boy. Naomi held the child in her arms. Tears streamed down her face. She looked towards heaven and said, God has smiled on us. This baby is a blessing. And she prayed again for Ruth and Boaz. Years passed. Ruth's restaurants became one of the most successful in the region. Boaz's rice business continued to grow. Together, they managed farms, mills, and businesses, but they never forgot where they started. They remembered the grief, the journey, the struggles, the days when they had almost nothing. Ruth smiled and thanked God always, because after all the pain they endured, God gave them something she never expected. A second chance at joy. Sometimes life can take away the things we hold dear and leave us feeling lost, broken, and unsure of what comes next. Ruth's story reminds us that even after great loss, there can still be new beginnings, unexpected blessings, and people who change our lives for the better. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. See you in the next one.